What is up, Thralls of Metal? Jammin Jon here, bringing you the promised part 2 installment of my last What's Jon Jamming thing. If you didn't see the first one, I filmed it back in February, and then now we get this one. Happy St. Patty's Day, y'all, by the way. I realize I'm not wearing anything green, so here is a green tee. Normally, I try to stick with unsigned bands or bands really stuck in the underground. I did have a band slip by here that I had never heard of that apparently is a little bit more well established, but they're kick-ass, so who cares? Just gonna get right down to it. The first band, At Sacrament, with their album A New Dawn, came out in July of 2020. This is an EP, it's their first release. They're a 5-piece band from Paraguay formed in early 2020. So if you're counting, that means formed in early 2020 and 7 months later they release a 5-song EP, which is impressive. Most bands don't do that. Independent and unsigned, they're classified as death thrash. That's, pretty much what it is. The vocals remind me a lot of Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder. Very high-pitched, not a lot of low growls, but hey, it's cool. Great production, very balanced mix. The only thing that I could maybe say would be to bring those guitars out a little bit more, actually. If you're gonna have 2 of them, give them a little more depth. Album is full of chugs and riff city grooves. Great lead work on the song Visions of Madness. Harmonies. Reminds me of Arch Enemy, actually. Other than that, they have a real Testament feel to them. Tons and tons of groove in the song Mental Overlord. Very high energy, a really great start for these guys. Please check out At Sacrament. It's a great release. Number 2 in line. This is the band that's a little bit bigger, but again, first time I heard of them. Here you go. The band Contrarian with the album Only Time Will Tell. Released on the 20th of November in 2020. They're on Willowtip Records. A 5-piece formed in 2012 in Rochester, New York. This is their 5th full-length album. I may have heard of these guys at some point, but I really think this was my first exposure. They're classified as progressive death metal, which makes a lot of sense. The first 3 albums they had released, they had drummer George Callias from Nile fame. And then after George Callias left, they got Patrice Hamlin from Canadian death metal band Martyr, and then Beneath the Massacre. So great drum work. And the guy that's in there now, Bryce Butler, from Abigail Williams, Lord Mantis, Shadow of Intent. They also had Paul Masvidal from Cynic join them on some guest vocals on their 2017 release, which also makes a lot of sense because immediately, right out of the gate, you're hit with a Cynic vibe. Sounds a lot like Death during like Individual Thought Patterns and Human. Atheist. The guitar in here is incredible, very technical guitar, great jams, great riffs, the lead work is superb. The musicianship all across the board is on point. Like the drums in the instrumental song Beat the Clock, that drum work is really sick. Great job, sir. The album really is all over the map, as good prog should be. The riff work in the Mega Metropolis, tasty. The leads are tasty. Their guitar section is Jim Tassikas and Brian Mason on guitar. Their bassist, Bill Bodley, is also from Flotsam and Jetsam, so that's cool. Great solid jam. I'm sure it looked like I was having a seizure when I listened to this because I'm all over the place with the guitar and then trying to catch the timing of the drums, and I'm sure it looked like I was having a seizure at work. Yeah, again, peppered throughout this because it's also progressive death metal. You get necrophagist vibes and Decrepit Birth. Give Contrarian a shot. I dug this record a whole lot. Moving forward, and this is a kind of a special one, the band Mutual Hostility with their album Sacred Propaganda on Cult of Parthenope Records. If I said that wrong, I'm sorry. Formed in 2020, these guys are a 3-piece from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm sure we've mentioned at some point we're here in Toledo, so Cleveland's not that far off. Necrotic Nick and I are in Cleveland all the damn time. Well, we were when there were shows. This is their first release, a 5-song EP. This is death metal through and through. Palm-muted chugs, blast beats, tons and tons of melody. Shredding, great production, maybe a smidge too much compression on the guitars, but as there's only 3 of you, I'm gonna let it slide. It's an absolute riff factory. Reminds me a lot of Cannibal Corpse, Napalm Death, Aborted. The song Endless Fall is pretty devastating all the way through. Reminds me a lot of Ingested. Songs are between 4 and 5 minutes, which is pretty cool for a death metal band. The song Paranoid Mind Control reminded me a lot of Dying Fetus. The song Unforeseen Events is pretty nasty. It's only a 5-song EP, so if I name all the songs, you're not going to go back and listen to the other two. Go back and listen to the other two. Definitely do yourselves a favor. Check out Mutual Hostility and give a shout out to Cleveland. If you're counting, the next band is number 4. If you're not counting, the next band is number 4. This is the band Cyan of Darkness with the album Downpath, released on the 4th of December in 2020. They're a 4-piece band from Austria. This is their first release. They are also classified as death metal. Formed in 2016, the production is super muddy. Super muddy. Lots of low end. And the low end is actually mostly in the guitar section. It's so low you can't really hear the kick drum, but it's okay. The band has that nasty kind of lick, Carnation vibe, but the vocals sound like Randy Blythe when he was in Burn the Priest, so mostly high-pitched. There's a couple of death growls in there, but not really. The song Extinction is an upbeat, chuggy riff factory with nasty tremolos and blast beats. The intro on the song Warrior is badass. Sovereign is a beast of a song. I guarantee the drummer's legs have been reduced to jello. There is a non-stop double kick blast that is pretty impressive. And while I will say the vocalist sounds like Randy Blythe, the vocal cadences that this guy puts with these tunes is pretty on point. It adds another kind of dynamic to this band, which is cool. I would say probably bring that lead guitar tone also out of the murk. The title track on this, Downpath, that's nasty. You get a lot of aborted out of it. Again, all of these bands have been great jammers, but please check out Scion of Darkness with Downpath. Alright, number 5. The band Purple Skies with the album A Picture of Our Fate, released on the 18th of December in 2020. These guys are a 2-piece from Greensboro, North Carolina, on the Road at Dusk Records. This is classified as epic heavy metal, and it indeed is very epic. This is their first full length. They had an EP in 2018 and a demo in 2016 with random singles peppered in throughout time here. I really have to labor the epic. The band, for the most part, sounds like Iron Maiden, through and through, and everything down from the beats to the guitars. And Iron Maiden's not a bad thing. I'm a giant Iron Maiden fan. Really can't compare it to much beyond that, but the vocals between spoken word and singing, this just sounds like a guy, like, preaching tyranny to a group of peasants in a kingdom. Like he's standing on a rock and just saying, "Hey, gentlemen, come hither, forth thine, where to art thou? Hence." Like, it's a lot of that. The music is great. Excellent leads, melodies, harmonies, shredding solos. The guitar work on here is nasty. The vocals, though, I gotta say, and maybe this is for me, I'm not a big fan of things like folk metal. As you guys know, I'm still getting into black metal, but like this would be more of like power metal, but not with the high-pitched singing. It would be, I'd call it like early thrash metal meets Iron Maiden meets not power metal, meets folk bands. I don't know. The vocals are sometimes spoken word. It is all clean singing, and sometimes it's not in key. The guy really tries in Cave of Fear. That song for sure. He is really on it. Great production. The song The Messenger is a riffy jammer. But at the end of the day, like, it's still Maiden with folk vocals. I enjoyed it. It was a good jam, it just, the vocals made it hokey. Number 6. Rigor Samsa with the album Cataract, released on the 26th of March in 2020. These guys are also unsigned and independent, so good job, folks. They're a 4-piece from Poland, formed in 2018. They're all pretty young dudes, haven't been jamming together long, and it's very obvious. These guys are labeled as progressive metal, however, it is very obvious that everyone in this band loves Tool. Sounds like Tool during the Undertow Anima phase. Like, just like Tool before they blew up. And actually, I really liked Tool before Tool became really popular. It's a very raw recording. The snare drum is pretty dry. It's gonna be an unpopular opinion, and I'm sure I'm gonna take shit for it, but I don't care. These guys might be better than Tool musically. The vocalist is not as good as Maynard, but I would put the drummer up next to Danny Carey. They're not so much stuck in the uniform song structure that Tool's stuck in. Like, it kind of doesn't have as much of the spacey, kind of trippy sounds. It's an hour long, which is, again, great for a first release. I mean, there's no EP, there's no anything. I guess I would say, too, if everything didn't remind me so much of Tool, it would be easier to pick up on songs and point out specifics. But, like, this is a carbon copy of Tool's best years. Again, these are original songs, not Tool songs, but you're gonna hear it. You're not gonna hear anything else. Great jam, though. Band number 7, if you're counting. This is band number 7. If you're not counting, this is band number 7. And please forgive me if I butcher the name of this. I'm gonna try not to. I said it a bunch upstairs, and then Nick said he thought I was right. So the band Latrimont with their album The Cult of Grinning Martyrs. Also might be Lautreamont, Latrimont, something. It's one of those three things. The album The Cult of Grinning Martyrs, released in 2020. These guys are a 3-piece from Russia. This is their second full length, and they had one EP in 2015. Band members are simply Wrath, Agony, and Dread. There were no names, and I tried. I looked. Way to go, Wrath, Agony, and Dread. This is classified as death and black metal, and I gotta say, in fact, you guys that have been watching now for how long probably just saw me confess it on our Dark Throne review. I am not that big into black metal. I'm getting there, and I'm learning. I really, really like the way this sounds. Like, if this is the thing for black metal, I want more of this. Reminds me a lot of Ulcerate and Garea. Blast beats, shreddy riffs, tremolo, huge, bleak atmosphere. You guys know I'm a sucker for dissonant melodies, and there's dissonant melodies all over this. Death growls, yells, screams, chants. Groove-laden drum work. The drummer is on top of his game. Lots of single-stroke rolls reminded me of Jamie St. Murat from Ulcerate, and Bron Daler had fills kind of like that, these big, huge, nasty tom fills. And again, I like single-stroke rolls on a snare drum. For some reason, that's pleasing to my ear. Like the beginning of the song Thanaphotobia has a great groove that lasts probably a minute and a half before kicking into anything with vocals. Sounds a lot like Behemoth during the Apostasy era. That's one of my favorite Behemoth records too. Again, I really, really like this. I somehow found it really relaxing to listen to, although the atmosphere is grim and hopeless and dark. I found it to be relaxing. I really, really enjoyed this record. The song Brotherhood of Suffering is another awesome track. I love the production. Everything is clear. You can hear the instrumentation. Tons of great groove and syncopation. Again, I'm learning. But if this is a black metal thing, then by all means, I'm all over this. I want more that sounds like this. If you're out there watching, I want black metal that sounds like Behemoth and Garea and Ulcerate, and just send me cool shit. Yeah, great job on this album. Again, I love the shit out of this album. Please go out and get this. Go to the bandcamp. Do whatever you have to. Last but not least, band number 8. I'd never heard of this before. Apparently Nick and Shred knew what this was, and this has got to be one of the most interesting things I think I've ever listened to. The band Hatebeak. Hatebeak. With the album The Number of the Beak, released in September of 2015. First release, they had one single in 2019. Features Blake Harrison, who did guitars, bass, drum programming on the album, but who is the programmer from Pig Destroyer. Mark Sloan is on guitars and bass. Mark, I couldn't find anything more about you. I tried, buddy. But the vocalist is Waldo, the African gray parrot. That's right, parrot. If you guys haven't heard of this, lyrics are completely unintelligible. It's all squawking. Actually, it's called death squawking. The music actually isn't terrible, considering it's drums are programmed, and I mean, there's a parrot singing. It sounds like running a buffalo through a wood chipper. Congrats to Waldo on your buffalo impression. I know you're a parrot. Great job on the buffalo impression. The music is basic, but it's a parrot. And the puns for the song names, I love them. I wish that the song titles sounded like the bands that they're, obviously in reference to. And they don't, except for Birdsum, which kind of sounds like something Burzum would release. So that was cool. The song Molt Thrower, Beak of Putrefaction, God of Empty Nest. They're all bird puns. I love it. Music-wise, I'd say like a 2. Comedy factor, like a 4. And when you incorporate those together, it makes for an interesting enough listen to where you kind of want to hear more, because you want to hear just how far the parrot goes. Now, when I first read about this, before I listened to, I had really hoped that the parrot was going to say some actual words, but he doesn't have to. Waldo, great job, buddy. If we ever meet, if you're still with us, great job. I definitely want an autograph. That brings me to the end of this episode of What's Jon Jamming. Once again, if you are in an unsigned band or you're stuck in the underground, you just want some press to get out there, please send me a PR kit. It would be really helpful. Your music, if it's on all the platforms, I have Spotify. I also pay for the YouTube Premium, so if you're on either YouTube or Spotify, let me know. I will find your albums. I would appreciate, though, a PR kit, a little bit of history about the band, because some of you guys are not documented well, and that may or may not be your faults. But, I want to make sure I get you out there good enough. I want to make sure at the end of the day somebody buys your album, or you end up with a few more streams on Spotify or something, because without the bands, we wouldn't have Thralls of Metal. So really, please send it to our email, thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. I would prefer that it's done on a Tuesday, just so I can try to keep everything uniformed. I don't want anybody to get lost in the crosshairs. So that's all I got. If you guys like what you saw, please hit the like button and the subscribe button and the little bell to let you know when we release content. We are almost to 5,000 subscribers. Holy crap, you guys. Thank you so much. I know, I can speak for myself and say that I love doing this. I know Necrotic loves doing this, and Shred and Ren and Miller. We all really enjoy this. Thank you guys so much for all of this. It is truly heartwarming. We appreciate it for sure. So you guys take care of yourselves. Again, enjoy St. Patty's Day and whatever you do, and green beer, and watch out for alcohol poisoning. Avoid the clap. You guys take care.